This time, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Val, please call the roll.
Commissioner Penny?
Here.
Commissioner Curry?
Here.
Commissioner Danio?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Villa?
Here, and we apologize for the late bit of tardiness. We had a workshop that ran a little long prior to this, but we're going to go ahead and kick off the meeting. We have a lot of presentations for you all tonight. I will ask you all now to silence your cell phones and any electronic devices that you may have. Also, please stand for the pledge and our invocation. Yeah. Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight to give thanks to you, dear God. Thank you for the blessings that you have put upon our great city. Dear God, thank you for leading all of us to public service. Dear God, please be with us as we make decisions that affect our community. Dear God, please allow us to always put our community first and foremost. We may not always agree, dear God, but please allow us to see each other's arguments. And dear God, we pray that we come together. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Actually, Commission, let's all go down here. We're going to do something different. So we're going to read some presentations to you all. Let's all come down here. We're going to read them down here.
Bring them with us?
Yeah. That way we don't have to keep getting up in front of that spot. So Val, we're going to go a little bit out of order from what's on the agenda. So these are important presentations to us tonight. We have 5 very important presentations to read you all. And first, I wanted to start off with someone that I've known for quite some time, and someone that I know that all of us are very, very proud of. We're all very involved with our school here, Holly Hill School, and we have someone very special in the audience tonight, and that's Josie, right back here, Josie Stump. And yeah, please stand and give her a round of applause. So Josie is not only our Teacher of the Year, chosen by her peers, which is a huge, huge honor at every single school, but she also is a finalist, top 5 finalist right now for the entire county of Volusia, and I believe Flagler as well? Just Volusia, okay, amazing. There's about 60 schools, Mr. Watson, something like that? 72, there we go. I mean, amazing. So we are so, so very proud of you, and so we have this proclamation that I'm honored to read to you tonight. Proclamation by the Mayor of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, honoring Josie Stump, Teacher of the Year 2021, Tuesday, January 14th, 2021. Whereas, classroom teachers are the cornerstone of our educational system, where teachers open the minds of all children. And whereas, no person has a greater impact on the education of a child or so many opportunities to make lasting and lifelong influences in the lives of so many as does the classroom teacher. And whereas Volusia County schools are filled with caring and qualified professionals who are helping students learn more and live better lives. And whereas the Teacher of the Year program recognizes the contributions of exemplary teachers who set high expectations for their students and inspire them to excel. And whereas the Teacher of the Year program is an effort to honor one teacher who is a representative of all excellent teachers in Volusia County, and Josie Stump has been awarded the Teacher of the Year 2021 from Holly Hill K-8 School, and has been teaching for a total of 2 years at Holly Hill K-8 School and 17 years for the Volusia County School Board. Now therefore I, Chris Villa, the Mayor of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby acknowledge and show its appreciation towards Josie Stump, Teacher of the Year 2021. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city to be affixed on this 14th day of January 2020. Congratulations. And so now, if you want to say something, you can, or we could just take a picture. I know. Okay, we'll take a picture. Sorry.
Thank you so much.
And so now we'll just start with our vice mayor. So we're doing a little different tonight. It is a huge honor as the mayor to be able to read proclamations where there are a lot of whereases in this. And so tonight I want to share that honor with the commission. And so I'll ask our vice mayor to come up and read the next proclamation.
Well, the next resolution I have is recognizing Mr. Dave Arthur, and unfortunately I don't see him here tonight, so I'll go ahead and read it to you, let you learn a little bit about his service to our community. This is a resolution of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, recognizing Dave Arthur as Citizen of the Year for 2019. Whereas the City Commission has nominated Dave Arthur as the Citizen of the Year 2019, and whereas Dave Arthur has been a volunteer in police service for the past 7 years, he has donated several hundreds of hours of his time working with the police department to provide special services to our citizens. And whereas the following is a list of just some of the many things that Dave has helped us with over the years. And whereas Dave house checks for residents that are away for extended periods of time, conducts roving patrols of the city, and speaks with residents about their various concerns. He's a courier for traffic citations and arrest paperwork that require hand delivery service to the clerk of court. And whereas Dave does traffic control assistance at crash scenes, crowd control assistance at City of Holly Hill events, assists records divisions when needed to for staffing purposes, helps with Christmas parade and tree lighting events, participates in the Neighborhood Watch program, and whereas Dave participates with the Coffee with a Cop event, helps with pre-hurricane sandbag operations, helps with post-hurricane operations, liaisons between the city residents of the City of Holly Forest Complex and the police department, assists with security when requested during extended events, and whereas in total, Dave Arthur has always stepped up to offer his assistance in any city event or police operation. He is always helpful and friendly with all the officers and citizens that he comes in contact with. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, hereby recognizes Dave Arthur as our Citizen of the Year for 2019.
And as he said, he couldn't be here with us tonight, so we'll deliver that proclamation to him. Next is our District 2 Commissioner, Commissioner Curry.
Thank you. And let's see, my resolution is for the Employee of the Year, and that would be Investigator Michael or Mike Ballantyne. A resolution of the City of Holly Hill recognizing Mike Ballantyne, Holly Hill Police Investigator for the City of Holly Hill, as Employee of the Year 2019. Whereas Michael Ballantyne, Police Investigator for the City of Holly Hill, was selected by the executive staff as the Employee of the Year 2019 and began his employment with the City of Holly Hill part-time on November 21st, 2014, and then became full-time on May 8th, 2015. And whereas Investigator Mike Ballantyne has continuously proven himself an exceptional employee, in addition to normal duties as an investigator in the criminal investigative division, Mike has taken on the role as the department's training officer. In his training officer role, he coordinates and tracks all of the training each of the department's 25 officers. Mike is also the department's only certified CVSA officer, which is computer voice stress analysis, to detect deception in both investigations and potential new hires. And whereas in the role of training officer, Mike works directly with the field training officers to ensure that the newest officers are receiving the very best, totally inclusive training, and that their daily observation report are completed fairly to ensure that each officer understands their strengths and areas for potential growth. And whereas Michael Ballantyne tracks all of the reoccurring training requirements for each of the seasoned officers to ensure that they are meeting all of the required training elements to retain their law enforcement credentials. Mike has also developed several Holly Hill Police Department training modules on the Target Solutions training platform to ensure that our officers are kept current on special law enforcement issues that relate to our community. And whereas Investigator Ballantyne also begun conducting training classes as our local ALF facilities to educate our senior citizens about cybercrimes and identity theft issues that directly target senior citizens. Mike also participates in the officer-friendly book reading program where he reads books and interacts with children at a local daycare facility. This fantastic program allows officers to interact with young children to ensure that they know they can easily approach a police officer for assistance if needed. Investigator Mike Ballantyne is also one of the officers that participates in our highly successful 5-0 Club that works directly with middle school and high school students at the Holly Hill School and UBIC. Mike is also the department's SART, which is Sexual Assault Response Team investigator, and he attends a conference every year to keep the department updated on current sex investigations and trends. And whereas Investigator Ballantyne also tracks and produces a weekly BOLO, Be On the Lookout email for our most wanted criminal subjects that we are seeking to arrest for warrants that we have obtained through thorough investigations. He also maintains an affidavit book that we have in the briefing room for individuals that we are seeking to arrest immediately if located, or have a warrant sought immediately due to the nature of their crimes. And whereas Investigator Michael Ballantyne is always looking for ways to make our community safer for all our citizens, he works with and mentors every officer within the police department. He never hesitates to fill in when needed and goes beyond to help his fellow officers. Investigator Michael Ballantyne has the recommendation of the entire command staff of the police department to be recognized as the City of Holly Hills Employee of the Year. Now therefore, be it resolved, the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, hereby recognizes Mike Ballantyne, Holly Hill Police Investigator, as Employee of the Year 2019.
And now, Commissioner Danio, would you come forward with our Business of the Year?
I would. Balboa family. I've been feeding you guys since you were like about that tall, right? It's my honor to recognize tonight's Corporate Citizen of the Year for 2019. A resolution of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, recognizing Amanda Balboa, Arrow Wrecker Service and Towing, as the Corporate Citizen of the Year for 2019. Whereas the Holly Hill Chamber of Commerce has nominated Amanda Balboa, Arrow Service and Towing, as the Corporate Citizen of the Year 2019, and whereas Arrow Service and Towing is a family-owned and operated business which was established in 1980, and whereas the Balboa family is celebrating its 4th annual One Business, One Family Christmas charity event, and whereas the Balboa family and Arrow Service and Towing have put together a program that's called One Business, One Family, which started in 2016, and 100% of the donations go to the families that are recommended by someone or the police and fire departments or teachers. Gifts or monetary donations are accepted and dropped off to Arrow Service and Towing, and then the families are invited to an event that Santa comes and distributes the presents to the families within the Volusia County area. And whereas that's a misprint, the Balboa family started this program with 6 families in 2017. They had 16 families in December of 2018. They helped 78 families, and to date in 2019, 55 families have been helped and are able to celebrate the Christmas holiday. Now therefore, be it resolved, the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, hereby recognizes Amanda Balboa, Arrow Service and Towing, as a Corporate Citizen of the Year 2019. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Congratulations. Yo, man, what's up? What's up?
Hey, you guys ready?
Yes. And Commissioner Johnson with Human Trafficking Awareness Month.
Oh, man. This is a good one, human trafficking. This is a proclamation by the mayor of the city of Holly Hill, Florida, declaring January 11th, 2020, Human Trafficking Awareness Day. Whereas human trafficking is the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion for the purpose of forced labor or sexual servitude, and whereas human trafficking is a $32 billion, with a B, a year global criminal enterprise and is a crime, as well as a civil and human rights violation, and an estimated 25 million people are currently victims of human trafficking for both sex and labor, and whereas human traffickers prey on their victims by promising a life of hope and greater opportunity while delivering only enslavement. Instead of delivering people to better lives, traffickers unjustifiably profit from the labor and toil of their victims, who they force through violence and intimidation to work in brothels and factories, on farms and fishing vessels, in private homes, and in countless industries. And whereas the city of Holly Hill, Florida is a vibrant city home to over 12,000 residents who have the right to hope, freedom, economic security, safety, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas this month the city does not simply reflect on this appalling reality, the city also pledges to do all it can within its power to end the horrific practice of human trafficking that plagues innocent victims not only around the world, but in our own neighborhoods. And whereas more awareness and education is crucial to eradicating human trafficking in our communities, state, and nation. And whereas Human Trafficking Awareness Day is observed on January 11th in municipalities across the country in order to educate the public and raise awareness about human trafficking, and the city of Holly Hill has a strong commitment to social justice. Now, therefore, I'll leave out the I, Chris Villa, Mayor of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim January 11th as Human Trafficking Awareness Day, and urges residents and surrounding agencies to support efforts and take action to end human trafficking. There's a photo here.
Would you like to say anything? Absolutely not. No? Would you? I'm Chris. Brittany? What's your name? Linda? All right, get right in the middle, folks. There you go. Sure you're all in there. Use this camera, and then you do one on mine. One more big smile. Thank you. Thank you for all the work you guys do for our community.
I just love having my picture taken at 7:30 on Tuesday.
We do too. Came to the right place then. Yeah.
How'd you get all those?
I took them out of my pocket.
Yeah.
That's you. I took them out of my box.
All righty. Thank you, commissioners, for helping me with that. I don't think we've ever had that many presentations for one night, so.
I don't remember that many.
A lot of whereas.
Yeah. All right. Now we're going to move down to public comments. This is the audience's opportunity to speak about anything not on our regular agenda tonight. Joe, do you have
Before
something?
you start, the attorney is just leaving South Daytona. He's wanting to know if we need him to come to the meeting. There's really nothing else on the agenda unless I can divert him or he can come,
You're pulling 6, right?
being that we might have that conversation at the end.
Yes, I would say yes because of that. So we'll go back to public comments. Yes, Jim.
Jim Schultz, 117 Harvard Drive. I saw, sometimes once you see something, you can't unsee it. It's in your head. Anyways, I just saw a video of the World Health Organization, all of the higher-ups in a meeting. It's supposed to be a secret closed meeting that the public would never find out. And everything they were saying sounds like the exact opposite of the reality that they share with the public. They were talking about the extreme concerns they had about adjutants, and then different ones would speak about it and say they're risky to use, that you have to use one that's been well safety tested because they cause all sorts of problems. And like the aluminum adjutants that are used in half the vaccines. And then they were talking, the head of the department actually was talking about how poor their injury reporting system was working and that they needed to increase the ability to detect harm before it actually happened because it wasn't adequate to do it. And then 5 days later, I see a video of her saying the exact opposite, that it's a excellent system and they detect all the problems. You start to wonder. But anyways, to go in a little bit different direction, let's not talk about the World Health Organization just because they said vaccine hesitancy was one of the top 10 health issues in the world. Oh, and during that meeting, they also said they were starting to lose the doctors. They were starting to lose faith in vaccines. Oh, that's nothing major, is it? Anyways, our federal government has a National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, and they also have VAERS, a reporting system. They knew that, they've claimed that maybe 10% of all vaccine injuries are actually reported. But then they said it could be as low as 1%. They paid $1 million to another government agency to determine what the actual numbers were. And instead of having it be a voluntary system, to develop a foolproof method where the actual records from the doctor's office through computer programs, artificial intelligence, would actually call all that actual data from the kids and people getting the vaccinations and exactly what their doctor said or their nurses or their PAs, and all of the adverse reports would actually go into the computer. Well, they paid $1 million to have this done. Russ Lazarus was the head of the study. It was done 2006 through 2009. In 2010, when they gave them the results that it wasn't 1 in a million kids being harmed, it was 100 times worse. Actually, it was 1 in 39. It was 2.6% of the kids had an adverse report on their data. And this was, at that time in 2010, supposed to be rolled out to all medical systems. This was in Cambridge, in Boston. It was Pilgrim Health, a huge system. It was 1.4 million doses of vaccines, 715,000 people, 45 different vaccines. This Ross Lazarus has 4 degrees, and he was totally baffled when his contacts at the CDC stopped returning phone calls and couldn't be reached by any manner. And this program had been promised that it was going to be a plug-in system that went in around the country and would automatically record the data. Guess what happened? Nothing. Because he complains in his report, nobody ever returned a call. Somehow, I think somebody should have gotten involved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the commission about anything not on our regular agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public comments, and we will move to approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion needed? Anyone in the audience like to speak to the minutes? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now moving to the consent agenda, items 1 through 5. The action proposed is stated for each item on the consent agenda. Unless the city commissioner removes an item from the consent agenda, no discussion on individual items will occur, and a single motion will approve all items. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on any item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. Is there any commissioner that would like to remove an item on the consent agenda? With that, I'll accept a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now moving to our regular agenda, we have one item, and that's Resolution 2020-R-7.
I'm actually going to pull that resolution. I got a call from Teresa Brooks today stating that there is conflicting language in the ECHO grant that has an effect on the language that's in this resolution. So she's working with the ECHO staff to see if the language in here is going to be good or if it's got to be modified. So hopefully we'll bring it back at the next meeting. If not, we'll have to bring it back in February.
Okay. Is it time sensitive? Meaning it won't come before the next meeting?
No.
Okay.
We're good to the next meeting.
Okay.
So this has to do with the language about the value of the land that we're going to use as the match money, and we're using it at a 50% ratio. And in one section of the ECHO policy, it says 50%. In another area, it says 25%. So they got to get that part figured out before we approve this resolution.
Okay. With no objection, we'll pull that item. Seeing no objection, we'll move to our public hearings, which we have none. We'll move to communications. Mr. Forte.
I have another number of updates that I'll just run down and give you. Most of them I've mentioned prior to. I sent you an email that the fitness court that we have at LPGA at Sunrise Park is actually going to be part of a promotional video on January 20th and 21st. So the folks from fitness court will be here with their own staff doing workouts to promote fitness court. I'm hoping that the Holly Hill logo is going to show up on their videos a couple times as they do that. I have sent you another email in regard to pickleball being renamed. We have Pickleball Daytona at Holly Hill as the nonprofit. They're going to rename themselves to Pictona at Holly Hill so that the facility and the nonprofit are under the same name. A couple of months ago, we had received a grant for the sand and grit removal for one of the facilities over in Public Works, and then we ran into a situation where not all of it was covered, and Stella worked to get that worked out, and in doing so, she was not only able to get that done, but they're going to go ahead and do the sand and grit removal for both of the systems over there. So it's a total of just under $350,000 grant that Stella is responsible for getting to the city. So
Yeah,
that's
great job.
Very good job.
The State of the County lunch is on February 11th at the Ocean Center. Does everybody know if they're going to go or not? I'm sure Val's going to need to send an RSVP.
I put it on my calendar.
Yeah.
I'm planning on going.
Do we need to RSVP, or are you going to RSVP? Oh, okay.
Oh, you didn't get the notice? All right, I got it.
I'll
So-
forward it to you.
And then we'll just let you know? Okay.
You're not going to make it? Going to make it?
I'm gonna try to make it.
All right, so everybody but Commissioner Danio.
Mayor has to say.
Yeah. We're working on a Lake Hadley project. This is, Dr. J from Bethune-Cookman has put together a, it's to eliminate some of the invasive species like the Brazilian pepper plants and replace it with natural species plants that are in there. It requires me to sign this tree grant application. It's not going to cost the city any money. She's kind of pulling together a couple of different grants to make this happen. And what it's going to do is it's going to plant Florida native plants along the shoreline, and also there'll be a floating, a wetland and kind of a, what do we call that? It's still a floating natural, it'll be a floating wetland that'll be in Lake Hadley, and that'll help with water quality, remove some of the nutrients, and be a benefit to the water quality that's going in and out of the canal into the intercoastal. So I just wanted to make you aware of this. It doesn't cost us anything. We will have future maintenance, but it's not going to be much because they're Florida natural plants, so it shouldn't require much. So she's been working with us. Mayor, you and I met with her probably a couple of months ago now, and she's assembled this, and it's about a $55,000 project, but we have to be a signer to the tree grant application. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that. And then lastly, you're aware that the boat launch is open, and it's nothing's been formally announced, and I'm waiting to see. I want to have this discussion to see if you want us to do more of a grandiose opening or just announce that it's opening and let people start using it more often. Do you want to have more of a big to-do, kind of a ribbon-cutting ceremony, maybe a bigger event? If so, we might want to wait till it's a little bit warmer out, maybe in March.
Warmer than it is today?
Oh, who knew? Who knew? No.
Do you want to talk about that now?
Sure, unless you want to do it some other time.
I'm fine with the original plan of waiting until spring to have a big community event.
Try and make it a bigger deal.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to work with some of the boat
Yeah.
companies.
I stopped by Blue Water Boats today. It's under new ownership as of Friday, and mentioned to them that they know about our new launch, and they said it was very impressive. But I told them that we were going to talk about it tonight, and if we were going to have some type of ribbon cutting, that we would like to have them participate, and maybe Aloha Marine participate also. And they said they'd be more than happy to participate, bring a couple boats down there maybe, so.
Yeah, the new owners, they really want to be a part of the community, which is awesome. And so they want to participate in anything they can. So this was a great kickoff for them to introduce themselves to the community as well. What are some other plans that we have for it? Do you have any plans for having?
Launch?
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to get it where we have a time and a lot of people will just launch their boats and just kind of mill around out there just in the channel area. And then, you know, if we can get sponsors or work something out, we can do maybe a little community barbecue. I don't know. I don't
Pizza.
know.
Right. I was thinking barbecue.
Pizza.
I was thinking barbecue type thing too.
What are you talking about?
I'm wondering if we should try to contact Doc and let him know and coordinate something where maybe we could have a plane down there.
I'd rather
We're not sure that's legal.
What?
We're not sure that's legal.
I'd rather not go that route.
No? Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Just make it about the boats.
It's a
Yeah.
seaplane. We'll leave this to the boaters.
Okay. So everybody good with spring? Sometime spring? Early spring?
Okay. We'll start to promote something coming up.
Good.
Okay, good.
Is that it? Okay. Scott, thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.
No comment? Great. We're going to start over here, our Vice Mayor Penny.
Only thing I have to discuss tonight is Commissioner Curry and I received an email today from Kathy Till, who's the Volusia League of Cities advocate. And it's that time of year where the Volusia League will be going to Tallahassee to try and promote some of our Volusia League's initiatives, as well as the Volusia League is a little bit different than the Florida League. We also have the distillery bill that we've put as one of our priorities. And so I just needed to talk about it, like who's going to go. There's 8 rooms that are reserved, so there's only 8 people that will be attending
For Volusia as a whole?
for our delegation. And so the email only went out to the people that actually attended the first meeting, which was, where was that? Oak Hill?
Yeah, it was at the Oak Hill.
So one of the requirements to go was to attend the first briefing meeting, and so Kathy's in charge of it. So she sent out the email, and I looked at all the names on it, and I saw Commissioner Curry and I were both on it.
Yeah, we
It's
received it
expensive.
today.
It's $336 a night while they're in session up there. So it'll be one night, it'll be travel February 4th, spend the night, and then February 5th, return home late. So it's a long day. The mayor and I went last year. So I didn't know what the pleasure of this commission was. I've gone for the last 2 years as the president of the Volusia League and as the immediate past president. I was planning on attending, but I don't know that it's, I don't know who would want to go. There were 16 people that received emails, and there's only 8 spots. So it's kind of a first come, first serve. We have to respond who will be attending by
Friday.
the 17th. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I think is Friday.
Yeah, by January 17th. So she can make travel arrangements for us. So I just throw that out there.
Mayor, can I go ahead and throw out a motion that, I obviously attended the meeting because my name's on the email list, but I feel like Commissioner Penny would serve a better spot if only one of us were going, because he is past president. He was up there 2 years past. He's very passionate about the distillery bill, and I just think he would better serve our commission, our community, if we were to only select one to send. So I would like to make a motion that we go ahead and, bless you, send Commissioner Penny, if that's what he still chooses to do, on the advocacy trip. And then maybe for the budget year coming up, we can talk about maybe something different.
And I'll say that, I don't know, though, hey, Scott, do we need to make that into a motion? I think we can just,
Scott, do we need to make that into a motion about the Florida League of Cities Advocacy Days coming up? They need a response from us, and I just put out a motion that we send Commissioner Penny as a representative because of his standing with the league
right.
here in Volusia.
I was just thinking without objection, we could go ahead and allow.
She withdraws them, unless they request a formal motion for the designee to be appointed.
Well, no, they just want to know.
No, if you withdraw, you made a motion.
Just
So
withdraw your
if
motion.
you withdraw the motion, then it can be by consensus. That
I'll
Commissioner-
withdraw my motion
All right, thank you.
that we don't send Commissioner.
And I agree. Look, I was up with you last year. You do a great job. You know a lot about the distillery bill, and you know
Yes, he
how bad
does.
I want to be up there.
You got a baby coming.
But I got a baby on the way. So, and I just, God's timing, man. I don't know if it's that day or day before or whatever. So, unfortunately, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get up there. And if I do, I'm going to go on my own expense. I'll just jet up for a day. But so I agree with you. But I also want to say too that if those 8 spots aren't taken, I have no objection to you going as well to have an extra.
That was going to be
representative.
my question, my ask. If the 8 spots aren't filled, do we want to send two delegates from our city?
Is there any objection to that? The more the better for our city to
Right.
get to know our legislators. It's the face-to-face stuff. So that way, when we go and ask them for money, then it's, I
guess
remember
we
you.
can respond Commissioner Penny is going to be an attendee, and I'll just be an alternate if that's what
If they have an extra spot.
everybody is okay with.
The only question may be, though, just thought of this, is you may not be able to be in the same room when you're lobbying for the distillery bill because you don't know if we're going to end up maybe voting
Nothing
on
for
that.
nothing? I'm not so sure it's a good idea we're in the same room.
Well, on stuff that we wouldn't vote on.
Oh, you mean in the same room?
No, we're not staying, we're not staying in the same hotel room.
No, oh, no.
Right over.
No, I mean with the
Curry.
legislators.
Okay, I got you, I got you.
Yeah.
Well, what did you do when you guys
So,
went last time?
you know, we went and spoke, but we were speaking on behalf of Volusia County. We didn't speak.
So just if we
city.
were going to speak on
If it was
that.
something specifically city, I don't know, maybe.
There's
maybe
nothing in the
Scott.
foreseeable future that we're
Yeah.
gonna vote on.
This is a state issue. I mean, Scott, maybe that's a question for you. I mean, John is lobbying for a distillery bill. We obviously have a distillery here, but it's a statewide bill,
Yeah, you're not going to be voting on that bill,
No.
so it's
so
not
they
a-
could be in the same
So
room
we could be
together.
in
Yeah.
the same room, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and because you'll have you may have applications like rezonings to build a distillery after that bill is passed, but that's not the issue.
Right. Okay. That's why we asked you to come tonight. Putting you to work.
Damn, man.
All right. Anything
Sharon,
further
no,
with
no.
that, or do you want to
No.
continue?
I'm done, thank you.
You're done?
I'm
Okay.
glad you're done.
All right, Commissioner Curry.
I can see that coming up in the paper sometime soon.
Single and a double bed.
Do you have my pictures? Let's go to something better. Please. I have a few pictures that I was able to be party of receiving this year. This is the Mainland Key Club. They had myself and Mayor Bill Hall come over to take a picture of them. And John Coburg here, who's dressed like the elf, is kind of one of our lead board members, and he's a Kiwanis guy. You can go on, you can kind of see on the pallet there where some of the food was. This is actually delivery day. I had a couple gentlemen from Public Works help me out. It was John Krevling and Sean, is it Hebert? How does he, Hebert? They helped me out to deliver to both schools, and they were a huge help. I cannot give them enough compliments. And of course, he left the room, didn't he? Is he gone? Probably. Antoine? This is a picture they took from upstairs down. This is everybody that was there participating in the food packing. They tried to get everybody. I'm not saying this is everybody there. But you get an idea, the pallets with the food, and they run through with the boxes, and it's a whole setup that they've worked out over the years. This was held at R&R Industries. So I want to say thank you to several people. I'd like to first say thank you to Lynn Smith, Walt Smizer, for coming down and helping out that day. Also, my mom and Forrest, because I cannot forget them. They're always there to support me. But I'd really, truly like to thank R&R Industries because they opened up their building. They cleaned up this bay area. They said it hadn't been that clean in 10 years. For us to be able to do this, they were there the Monday after to help everybody load their boxes from the different cities. They were great. And then McDonald's of Holly Hill provided, this is something we've never had before. They provided breakfast and coffee and all that good stuff. We've never had that at any of the food packing since I've been involved. I'd also, again, like to thank our two Public Works gentlemen, John Krevling and Sean Hebert. We delivered 70 boxes. 30 went to the Holly Hill K-8 school. 25 went to United Brethren in Christ Academy. 13 went to the Council on Aging, and then I had 2 other boxes I gave to some single mothers that lived here in the city with younger children. So that was our 70 boxes, and they're always very welcomed. So if you'd like to participate next year, we'd love to have you. R&R is ready to let the group have that facility again, and it worked great, so I'm looking forward to this year. I'd like to say congratulations to all the recipients tonight. They were well-deserved awards. And I just have one thing to say. We pay, you and I at least, pay a lot of attention to Facebook. I don't make a lot of comments on Facebook because it's danger zone. There was a comment that was posted today, and I don't know if you've seen it, or today? Yesterday maybe, I don't remember, but it was asking what you like or love about Holly Hill. I thought, oh, this might be bad. But I'm going to tell you, every comment on there was positive. I was shocked. Every single comment on there was positive, and I just checked it, and it's up to like 68 comments. And I couldn't believe it. So I did have to comment, because that just made me feel so good.
Commented on the comment?
I commented on the comment. But it made me feel so good that people felt so positively about their community, about their neighbors. I mean, it was just great. So if anybody has Facebook, go on there. It's under the Holly Hill Facebook page. But I thought that was great.
You need a computer for that? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
I thought
Just the positive. And I'm waiting on you to give us an update on the project to the west, so I won't make any comments about that. So that's all I have. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Daniel?
Not much. It's been a while since we've seen it. I just wanted to say thanks to the community and whoever got involved with the Josh's Jamboree this past Friday. It was a huge success, and I'm glad everybody kind of came through and supported that cause. So they need a little help with their distribution, maybe. I got 12 lunches. I got 12 big bags. Everything was packed in big old containers with this much in it. I was teasing Pastor Chuck. He said, it was all for free. But the guy said, go ahead, bring it in. I actually got a delivery for a change. I'm on a delivery service, and I was like, yeah, deliver it to me. So the guy comes and he brings our lunch, and I was like, yeah, it's them on the table. Next thing you know, he comes back, there's a couple more. I'm like, couple more? I'm like, what do you have? Oh, I have 12 lunches. You got 12 big shopping bags. I'm like, oh boy, each one had its own separate thing. Chuck didn't want to get him confused. But other than that, it turned out to be real good. So I was glad for that. Amanda Balboa did a great job again. I'm glad she got recognized. That's a good, strong family, and I appreciate them as customers, and I appreciate what they do for our city, and the other recipients as well. So other than that, I'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Johnson?
I don't have a lot. I just kind of thrilled to hear the good things about Holly Hill, and I travel a lot, and I see so much construction, so many things building right now. The economy is doing so good. The stock market's the stock market's doing good, but most everywhere that I go in this area, if you go to Sanford, you go to Orlando area, and all that, they'll be building there for another 10 years straight without even slowing down. But if you go around a lot on Williamson, if you go a lot on the LPGA and all that area, only concern I have, I mean, it's building a lot of apartments, a lot of people are going to be moving in to live there, driving in and out. I still have a big concern that we may not have enough roads for people to travel on, especially when you hear of this project they're going to build now north of 2,500 acres they're going to build north of Margaritaville or something, I hear too, up to there. They need to open that up through there. They need to widen out Williamson Boulevard. They need to work on LPGA a lot better, and so many things like that. That's my main concern right now. But I think the economy is doing good. I think the building's doing good. The real estate people are doing good, and everybody's making a lot off of it. But as long as we don't get too overcrowded so we have a problem of getting around through each thing, you know what I mean? But I don't, and Holly Hill is doing really good. I love to see the building going up across the street. It looks so good. and the boat ramp, and just so many things we're doing right now is such a great thing. And the only other thing, we got the Speed Week's coming up here pretty quick. It's going to be crowded with that, the 24-hour race, and then all the Daytona races. And then we was talking about naming a lake in here a while ago. I got to thinking about, there's a road a main road that comes out behind Daytona 1 that feeds into the speedway for all the buses to go on and all, does not have access to it and all. And I don't know, does anybody here know what the name of that road is? I bet he does.
I don't know.
You don't know what it is?
I do know what it is.
That's a main thoroughfare. All the buses going all the way from LPGA all the way into the back up to the speedway there. And
What's
the
it
uphill
called?
employees and everybody get to go on it. That's actually called the Jerry Penny Parkway.
Ah, really?
That's road's been there for quite some time. His dad designed it pretty well and put it in place and all when he was in charge of the transmission lines. I just got thinking about that because of that. And only other thing I had, I wonder if Jim Cameron has any information that we don't know about. He didn't have a word to say. He'd come in here and don't say a word the whole time. And
He brought a guest.
I'm just enjoying listening to your meetings.
nothing that we don't know about, huh?
I might add something a little bit later.
Run out of time.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. So I, too, want to just carry on with that bit of positivity that you brought up. I had it on my notes to talk about that exact Facebook post.
Oh, okay, so you did see
70-some comments. Yeah, I did the 24-hour wait to send thing. But it was really special because those comments on there, people talked about what they liked about Holly Hill. And a lot of them talked about the parks. A lot of them talked about central location, small town feel, that they know their neighbors. They know that they can count on their neighbors. And that's our true Holly Hillians. Now, those people also have a lot of complaints, and we should be ready to listen to them. But I think that the word's getting out that Holly Hill is really stepping up, and people really love this town just as much as we do. And that's really, like you said, it was very, very nice to see, for a change, positivity on Facebook.
Oh,
Doesn't
absolutely.
happen much,
No,
especially
not on
when
Facebook
politics
anymore.
are involved. So that was really nice. And other positive things, over Christmas break, Vice Mayor and I got to join with our great police officers to accept a number of bikes. Do you remember what the number was? It was
I think it was like 35, wasn't it? 20?
20 bikes that were donated by individuals. That just amazing. So a lot of those bikes went out to our community. Did they all get out, Chief?
We have a few that we go out throughout the year as well, but yes.
If you find a bike stolen or something, you'll give it.
Or some event at the school or something.
Right. Just what amazing, because bikes are so expensive. I know because I'm a father, and they are so expensive, and so that's a big blessing to a lot of our community to be able to have that, especially for Christmas. So we just wanted to give a shout out to them. A lot of people are doing a lot of positive things in our community, and I couldn't be more proud of that. I too wanted to talk about the pickleball facility going up. I don't know if it blew your guys' minds, but it certainly did mine. It's like, whew, driving down the street, and
Yeah.
I've been getting so many calls about it. A lot of positivity there, talking about that, and also the boat launch looks gorgeous. So really did a great job down there. Looking forward to that. Moving on, I want to give you an update. As you know, I serve on the elected official roundtable, which is mayors from around the county that we get together and we talk about issues about the county. And so one of the updates to talk about from that was the sales tax discussion update. And it seems as if everybody has backed off of the idea of 2020 to put out the referendum again. Which is good. The chairman, actually, who was very for it, Mayor Apgar, actually spoke about it and said, I have realized that we have lost a lot of support for this, supporters. And so they talked about a different idea that I wanted to bring up to this commission because I wanted to get you guys' take on it. There was no action taken, and it's way in the future. But what they brought up was they put together a couple meetings of open mic with people that were against it to come out and talk. They spoke a lot about trust and how could you trust government again to do this. And then that's when he realized that he lost a lot of participants from the last election. And so we mentioned holding off till 2022, but also to combine the sales tax with Volusia Forever and the ECHO fund, which are coming to an end, which would need to be put back on to for an election for people to vote to renew Volusia Forever and the ECHO board. And it was interesting because they talked about taking Volusia Forever and ECHO off of the tax bill, turning it into a sales tax. So instead of a half-cent sales tax, they would have a 1 cent sales tax, and it would go to fund Volusia Forever and ECHO, which combined get $15 million a year through our millage rate. It's on all of our property bills. So they would take that off the tax bill and turn it into more of a user fee that up to 40% of it would be paid by outside visitors coming to our ECHO projects. We've been lucky enough to receive funds from ECHO. And it was just a unique idea. I think at this point it was just an idea that was thrown out. There was questions, though, to the legality of doing it. Some people think that right now there's not a mechanism for a sales tax through the state to be able to fund Volusia Forever and ECHO. And if Mr. Simpson knows any more about that, feel free to chime in.
No, I just know that it would have to be specifically authorized by state law. In the sales tax for the infrastructure that didn't pass was one that was specifically authorized by state law. So, and there's a law that lists a whole bunch of things that you can have sales tax for. I just don't know if they list something comparable to what ECHO and Forever funds were used for.
Right. And Joe, I think I got the spirit of what they said, but if you want to add to that, you have.
That's pretty accurate.
But Joe also brought up that, because we spoke about it after the meeting, is one thing that we may run into is they would have to have boards for Volusia Forever and boards for ECHO, and all of that funding, like it does now, has to go through those boards and to be approved. So would the same mechanism hold true for infrastructure? So now there's a $40 million pot of money for infrastructure, but now do we have to go to them and plead our case to the board because they want to set up a board for this infrastructure? So then do we have to go and plead our case to them? And then there's favoritism that could be played, and small cities like us could actually end up losing out. There's a lot to be hashed out, but I just wanted to make you all aware about it because the paper didn't accurately portray what I heard of the idea. So I don't know if there's any comments, if you guys have any, or you just want to see what happens. It's nothing immediate. I'm not going to be asked for the commission's stance, but
Doesn't ECHO sunset this year? So if they don't put it on the ballot for 2022, there'll be a 2-year funding gap. And I understand there's a push from last time we went to the ECHO
Right.
board. Many citizens came forward and want ECHO to be put back on the ballot, irregardless of what the county does with the sales tax. They want ECHO and Volusia Forever
right.
to be continued.
So the discussion would be to keep it open for 2020, but also what was mentioned was that there is apparently quite a bit of money in the savings that they're going to be able to continue this for at least another year without any voter approval. And so they may be able to get further, but I don't think we really went down that route of seeing when those funds will run out. So I know that it'll at least last for another year. So I don't know. I don't know if anyone's like vehemently opposed to it. I would like to know that. Being the mayor at the round table, a lot of times it's asked for our city's position, and so I don't want to characterize it wrong because obviously I have my own opinions, and so if you ever do have a thought, please bring it up in a public meeting to let me know. Is there any other thoughts about that before we move on?
You can't really make an informed decision without
Right.
more information.
Right.
I'd have to.
So I'll
put
just
that-
include you guys in more information as it comes out, if anything happens with that. Also at the mayor's roundtable was there was going to be, I thought, a talk about the homeless shelter, the First Step Shelter, as we know about. We have a representative of the board of the First Step Shelter Board here tonight, but before I ask you maybe to come up, I want to say a few things. So I mentioned at the board that I was disappointed in some of the news that's come out about the First Step Shelter Board. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but there was talk of, it was always my understanding that Daytona Beach would fund the safe zone. And it's seeming that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong later, but it's seeming like Daytona is no longer wanting to fund the safe zone and pushing it off onto the board. And the problem I have with that, and I've spoke to a member of the First Step Shelter Board, they're having problem right now actually fundraising for their normal duties, everyday duties of what they're going to do. So I saw estimates of $150,000 to build a safe zone and upwards of that. And, you know, I don't think that we need a Cadillac plan. And Mr. Simpson, maybe you can tell me more. But and my vision for that wasn't as extravagant as they're asking for. I mean, I thought maybe we could put a fence there and a grassy place and allow that to be a safe zone. Now, I don't know if that's Pottinger compliant, and maybe you can answer that for us.
You know, I haven't really looked into the legalities of what's necessary to be Pottinger compliant. I can tell you Pottinger was a 1992 case out of Miami. So there's been a lot of court cases since then, maybe interpreting and applying it. And I read a little bit, did a little bit of reading about it today, but not enough to say I'm fully versed in it. But you know, there's been an Orlando case recently which had, you know, kind of a anti-camping, outdoor camping ordinance that was actually upheld, and it was challenged on the same grounds as Pottinger. But it was upheld in Orlando, where in Miami, there's an article I read seemed to distinguish on one of the characteristics or issues was there adequate other places for homeless people to go? In the Orlando case, they had the Homeless Coalition of Orlando or something along those lines that has always had space, never been, you know, completely full. And because there were adequate spaces for them to go to, they seem to think that was a distinguishing characteristic from Pottinger, where in Pottinger there was no other place to go to. So the only place for them to live was on the street. In Pottinger, they were doing homeless sweeps, where they were going into these homeless camps and just destroying all the property of the people there. So I would have to do quite a bit of research to get up to speed to say, okay, this is legally, these are what your options are. If we identify what the problem we want to solve is, and then say, okay, these are our legal options. Mm-hmm. Then to say, okay, is what is being proposed by Daytona and the First Step Shelter going to satisfy our legal issue?
And
so it's a very complex issue.
Right. Completely, and thank you for that analysis. I just, you know, I was asked for my opinion by the News Journal, and I don't know if you guys saw it, but you know, I told him my opinion, that I'm thoroughly disappointed with what has become of the First Step Shelter Board. As you all remember, John Penny was on the board for the homeless, you know, with the Mayor's Roundtable, and was in the beginning of things. And you know, we had a $2 million project with 250 beds, safe zone, come as you are type facility. And that's what was promised. And now what we get is just completely two different things. Now we have a project that's ballooned over $6 million that we were promised would never go over $2 million. We have 45 beds with maybe 30 people being served right now. You have to be invited in, which I'll ask you about in a second. But I'm starting to ask so we have a commitment of $21,000 over the next 5 years, about $100,000. What are our Holly Hill citizens paying for if we're not guaranteed one bed, and if there's a possibility that the safe zone never gets funded and never gets built? If that happens, then we just built a Taj Mahal for Daytona Beach with Holly Hill taxpayers' money. And so that's what I was trying to get out. Tonight, we have a representative, would you like to come up? Just please state your name, title for the record, and sorry, I had to get all of that out before I wanted you to come up, and now you can rebut me completely, but what's your name and title?
I'm Victoria Fallberg, and I'm the Executive Director of First Step Shelter.
Thank you. Would you like to respond to anything I said? Did I get anything wrong, or?
Well,
I know I threw out a lot.
you threw out a lot.
We'll take it one by one.
I think the main thing I want to say is that it's never, I think most of you probably know this. I've only been around for a little over 3 months, so I can only speak from what I've experienced since I've been here, right? So since I have been here, there's never been any talk ever of not having a safe zone. The safe zone is my understanding, the part that would make the First Step Shelter compliant with Pottinger. And what that means, so the safe zone would provide a place for law enforcement 24/7 to bring people that they would find on the street, that they would give a choice. Would you want to be arrested, or would you like to go over to the shelter? And so that allows all of the participating communities to be Pottinger compliant. That's my understanding. So I'll just say that there's never been a question since I've been there that there would ever not be a safe zone. The question's always been like, where is it going to be, and what's it going to look like, and how many people are we going to, have space for, and more things like that. So then the other question then there was finally, they did approve a location and a preliminary drawing. That was before the shelter itself opened, which was December 16th. And at that time, then the city of Daytona Beach was looking into what the cost would be and the possibility of building it. And then I found out that they had decided not to build it, which I relayed to my board. And so at our last meeting, they had asked me to get together with Catholic Charities and figure out, okay, since they're not going to do it, what are we going to do? I agree with you. I don't think any of us were expecting that cost, which is what came back from the architect that had been working with the city, who had built the shelter. So that was a big surprise for us. I think that most of those costs, I don't know, because I haven't really seen the estimate thoroughly, but I do know that there were just a lot of expenses in there, that $20,000 for landscaping and some other things. But I think the majority of all the money was going into building this new guard shack. Mm-hmm. And my board will decide if we're going to build that or not. I don't think that we need it. We already have the whole place set up so that people come in. We have the metal detector up, and so that guard shack was where all of the security was going to be located in that idea. And so I think that having the guard shack with a lot of electricity and air conditioned and all of the security equipment and cameras and things installed in there is probably what drove the cost up. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that plan had bathrooms included. I don't think it did. That would not be part of our plan. What our plan had originally been, and will continue to be, I presume, was to have porta potties in there. So that had been our plan. And the ongoing cost for that, though, is because it is 24/7, we would have to have security there 24/7.
Have to?
Well, how could they be coming in and out if nobody's there?
I'm just asking.
Yeah,
Is
that's
it
my
in the
understanding.
law that they have to have security there?
I don't believe that
can't
the
just
law
be
states that. I believe it's because if it's going to be on our property, we have to assume the responsibility for the safety
Yeah.
of the people who will be in the safe zone. And so if there's, a lot of different people in there and there's fight breaks out or something, we have to make sure that we protect the people who are coming into the safe zone who are on our property.
Good answer, yeah. Commissioner Penny or Vice Mayor Penny.
You had said that your board would make the decision whether the guard shack would be built or where the safe zone would be located. Is it really your board's decision, or is it City Commission of Daytona Beach decision?
That's a really good question. So
Thank you.
in the time that I've been here, I've had to understand there's all these multiple levels of authority. There's people that work in the background. There's Catholic Charities that's the operating partner, and every single individual and group and board all have a say. I am not sure ultimately if the commission could say no to the board, but I think it's, it's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
And that's kind of what seems like happening now. It's my understanding that it was Daytona's responsibility to build the safe zone, and for them to throw it unfairly at the last minute at your board, who is having a tough time struggling. I think that's where the disconnect is between a lot of the cities, that it looks like Daytona Beach is shifting the burden. And so if they can do that, I think it leads to his question of the board, to me, seems like more of an advisory board than an actionary board, meaning that it seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, seems like the city manager of Daytona can override your board and say, no, we're not going to build this, you build this. And you're going to say, how do I have the funding for this? I have to go and raise money. That's, I think, at the heart of the issue.
Right. And I don't think that I can give you a clear answer.
Okay.
Especially, I can't give you a clear answer about the role of the city manager. I know that the response that I got that they weren't going to build the safe zone, that came from within the city, not from the commissioners. All right? I can tell you that. But how all of this authority is going to flow, making these decisions, I don't know.
Do you think that the board should address that maybe in the next meeting?
There's a lot of things.
I know, and I'm putting
Don't
you on.
make her say something
I'm
she
putting
doesn't.
you on the hot seat right now. But
Yeah. I mean,
the reason why I'm doing that, though, just to be clear, is because $21,000 may not seem like a lot in the grand scheme of $1 million to run the facility, but it's a lot of money to the city of Holly Hill and to our citizens. And so we have to make sure that our money is protected. And if we see Big Brother Daytona coming in and unfairly throwing duties at your board in which that they may not be able to fulfill, then it's our problem. And so,
right. I think that what I would say is that I think that the board, I know that they know that, right? And then they make a decision about how they're going to respond.
right.
And so I just have to leave it up to my board about making that decision about what they are going to do in response to the questions that you're asking about their relationship with the city commission. I
Okay.
know that some things for sure, for example, we don't have the right to choose who's going to be on our board,
Right.
right? So that's up to the
Right.
city commission.
Good point. And the other question is what cost are they looking at exactly? Because I've heard numbers from 150,000 to 250,000.
Yeah, the two costs I've seen were by the same architect that went through the city, we didn't commission it. First it was 200,000, and then the cost was reduced to 150,000. But again, I think that could be done
Cheaper.
much cheaper. And like I said, if there's not the guard shack, which, the board may decide that that's what they want to do, my board, right?
Do you give recommendations to the board?
I will be giving a recommendation to the board.
And will your recommendation be we need to build this out of the funds that we have, which is currently what, like $880,000 currently? Is that?
Well, we've opened up the shelter for operation. As of today, we had 31 residents, and by the end of the week, we probably will have probably another 5, right? So let me just say that the other thing that gets a little bit complicated is that we can't even do anything completely on our own because we have a managing partner who also has a contract. And so we can't impose things beyond the contract without a negotiation with the managing partner.
Is that Catholic Charities?
Yeah,
Okay.
with Catholic Charities. And so, even the sort of the functioning of the safe zone, even questions, so since it's their responsibility to make sure that things run properly at the shelter, to make sure that people are safe, which I have to say that's kind of like one of our main issues is we not an issue, but we want to be sure that when you're dealing with a population of people that have been on the streets maybe for a while, who have problems with mental illness, problems with addiction, things like that, we want to be sure that we never put them or staff into any kind of a situation where it's unsafe. And I'll just share with you that I'm from Lowell, Massachusetts, and we have we call it Transitional Living Center up there, but it's a 24/7 emergency shelter. And at this point, it was probably about 10 years ago, one of the residents stabbed to death one of the staff. My friend was the executive director. I had 2 friends there who worked there, and I can't tell you how it rocked the community. And so safety is just really an important thing for me, and fortunately, I think it is for the other people that I work with. And so we want to make sure, and so I'm just saying all these things about safety because in working with Catholic Charities, that's a big concern of theirs. So where we locate the safe zone is also going to be dependent on the kind of security that we're going to be able to have, right? And how
Do you
much it
currently
costs.
have security in your facility right now?
Right, we do. We have
do?
24/7. One person is there 24/7. Actually, I take that back. It was supposed to be one person, and then they basically requested another person there 24/7 because we don't yet have all of the security cameras installed. That should be done by the end of the month, and then we'll have one person overnight. But until we have all the security cameras installed, there's 2 people there. And that, again, is for safety.
Okay. Are there any other questions while we have the executive director here? Mr. Forte, would you like?
Is the safe zone that used to be, or maybe still is, over on, was it by Embry-Riddle, is that still active?
It's,
In Daytona?
Yeah, that was
Couple
taken
years
away.
ago.
Yeah.
it's
I thought
still,
that they still had a safe zone.
they still
I thought it
have
was
that.
taken.
Still active? Do you know how many security people are there?
There's, I don't believe there's any security people there.
Thanks.
I
Interesting.
understand your point, but I think it's a little bit different when you're working there. Because they say people can go here, but, I mean, these people are like right next to where we work, where our residents are living.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you being here. Just for the record, we didn't plan this or anything, or else I would have had it on the agenda. I stated to the newspaper that I would be bringing up my comments to talk to my commission about it. But I appreciate you coming up and being here tonight.
Yeah, and I appreciate all of you. I do very much appreciate this. The shelter is going slowly, I guess, certainly by the News Journal standards. We're growing very slowly. But we're going to be up to 45 probably by the end of next week, maybe one more week after that.
Mr. Mayor, you
Yes.
had mentioned by invitation.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh, yes.
It's not by invitation. Anybody so there is an eligibility criteria that officers have access to, and also we have a liaison from the Daytona Beach Police Department that not works at the shelter, but he's a liaison to the shelter. He did come out here to Holly Hill and told me he helped to train the police here on what our eligibility criteria is. But basically, if a person's homicidal, suicidal, has an outstanding warrant, is a registered sex offender, there's certain people that we can't take. This is for inside of the shelter, all right, to live there and to be part of the program. But if they aren't on that list, then they're eligible, right? And so all that means is that a police officer would call, make sure that there's openings, and then they can bring the person over.
Which is different from when it started, come as you are, walk into the facility, and if there's a bed, you could be served, which is my main point. And so when you have to come in and you're told that there's not an appointment available to be able to be seen, and you got to get out of here, to me that sounds like invitation.
It was never, it was termed come as you are, but it was never really come as you are, in that anybody that walked through the door had to be there by police escort, meaning they had to have a background check, make sure there's no open warrants, no
Okay.
felonies, anything like that.
Thank
So
you.
it wasn't just you could come by and drop your friend off. That
Because you're homeless.
there was conversations about that very, very early on, but the reality of it is you had to have clearance in order to get through the door.
Okay. And look, we're all here wanting to help the homeless situation. That's why we were involved in the first place. It's just, these are big questions that need to be answered when these questions are being posed, and I'm getting phone calls about why our taxpayers' money is going to serve Daytona Beach.
Well,
How much did you guys talk about this yesterday at your meeting?
Unfortunately, not at all.
So maybe you should talk about the elected officials roundtable.
There
where
was.
there's 16 representatives, and they all are sharing the same thing, so that
Well, and that's why I wanted to bring it up to you. It wasn't to
Agreed.
have this back and forth, but what it was so I could get your position. Because as mayor, as you know, I have to represent the city, and I don't want to go out there and make statements like, I want to pull out of this and have it be reflected on the commission. I think now that it's prudent that if we do not have a safe zone built, that we do not continue to fund the First Step Shelter, and that is my opinion, that is my stance, and I hope my commission will back me up on that.
Well, it's my belief that if we're not going to have put out there what was originally intended to be there to actually serve our community, I cannot continue to approve $21,000 a year for somebody else to get usage out of it. I have to be physically responsible in that order.
right. Well, there's members of my board who are in the same positions that all of
Right.
you are. They're elected officials in their communities outside of Daytona Beach. They all feel the same way you do, and therefore I find it impossible that they're not going to want a safe zone for the exact same
Right.
reasons that you all want one.
Right.
And as far as I know, there's never, since I've been there, there's never been talk of not having a safe zone. And I really regret that the News Journal had the first article last week saying there's not going to be a safe zone, when that was never, ever the case. And in fact, I talked to that reporter the day before that article came out, and I explained all of that. And then that wasn't in the newspaper. So I know that's probably not a surprise to you. So I just want to say, I do apologize that everybody got the wrong impression. There is going to be a safe zone. How the approval process goes, I'm not really sure, but I do know that there's going to be one because my board feels like you do.
There's no need for you to apologize. There's a need for the Daytona Beach to apologize to the First Step Shelter Board
She
for
actually
for
did.
placing this on you. So
She
you don't
she
need
did.
to
She
apologize.
called me, and she sent. She feels very bad because this is what's happened. But
Right.
it's one of the. It's like I've been wanting to come and meet all of you anyway. So
Right. This is perfect.
unfortunately, this is not the greatest
trial
moment.
by fire.
But it's a good
Yeah.
opportunity to get to meet people and to say.
It really is. And Ormond's stance is the same as what I just said.
And
that
Port
they
Orange
won't
it
fund,
will
right?
be too,
Okay.
and so will everybody else's.
All right.
So,
So if you could-
they understand.
And when speaking with them at your next board meeting, you can let them know, I think, without objection, that that is our stance as well.
Sure.
We need the first step,
And
or
so
we need the safe
if you
zone
have a
built.
safe zone, then that means that you are supportive, and
Absolutely.
And
that's great.
We want to be a part of it, okay?
Yeah.
We want to be,
But I don't like having the rug pulled out from underneath me. And
Well-
that's what I felt was done by
Why, she's
Daytona
got a
Beach.
brace on her foot.
That's right.
we can
See what
take the blame
happens
for
when the
that.
rug's pulled out from underneath me?
Yeah.
But I
So-
appreciate you coming.
Yeah,
so-
so I just want to say that that's not what was meant to happen at all, but I do understand how you feel, all of you.
well,
So
thank you
I'm-
very much, and thank you for waiting until the end very
Oh, that's
patiently.
okay.
I really appreciate it. Joe, do you have anything else to say about this? Is there any other comments from commission? All right, thank you very much. I
Okay,
appreciate
thank
it.
you. Good night.
Thank you.
The one last thing that I'll say, it's very quick, is on Thursday is Nick Conti's last day, and I just wanted to applaud him. I've had a good working relationship with him throughout his time here, and I think he's contributed to our city, and he's moving on to greener pastures, gonna,
Well, I don't know if it's greener. I think,
well, the money's greener.
well, the
and-
money's greener.
And the trip time is better, yeah, Commissioner.
Don't forget, if you RSVP'd for the chamber breakfast, that it's tomorrow morning.
Yes, tomorrow morning. Yeah, so let's not
Yes.
let this go to 1 a.m. Is there any further business? With that, we are adjourned. 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 Adjourned.